What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got some important things to talk about here today. Mitch McConnell saw killing Senator Joe Manchin's bill as personal, and also Senator Kyrsten Sinema has become friends with Republican leader Mitch McConnell. First, let me give you a little bit of backstory here. Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona, who's very central leaning, says she's become good friends with the Republican leader Mitch McConnell from the Senate in Kentucky, even though she's not really friends with any of the Democratic Party except for maybe Joe Manchin. All the Democrats have said, what is Kyrsten Sinema doing? In fact, most of Arizona constituents said, what is Kyrsten Sinema doing? You can let me know if you're from Arizona in the comment section. Her approval ratings are at historic lows for a senator. Remember, she's a freshman senator here. And the interesting thing here is that she has held no town halls in Arizona. She won't answer any questions from Arizonans and makes very rare public appearances where she'll actually answer any questions. But she did so in Kentucky for Mitch McConnell, who's the leader of the other party. She's a Democrat, he's a Republican. This is very, very strange. Listen to what she says. And remember, she's basically held up stimulus checks, aid to people, pretty much everything in the Senate, along with Senator Joe Manchin. So let me know your thoughts on this.
But despite our apparent differences, Senator McConnell and I have forged a friendship, one that is rooted in our commonalities, including our pragmatic approach to legislating, our respect for the Senate as an institution, our love for our home states, and a dogged determination on behalf of our constituents. You know, in today's partisan Washington, it might shock some that a Democratic senator would consider the Republican leader of the Senate her friend, but back home in Arizona, we don't view life through a partisan lens. Arizonans understand that while we may not agree on every issue, we do share the same values.
First, you touched on this in your talk, but can you expound on why you hold such support for the filibuster, especially when many others in your party have opposing views?
That's such a great question, Madeline. You know, Senator McConnell mentioned this in his opening remarks, and I mentioned it in my remarks as well. The danger of eliminating the 60-vote threshold is that the Senate becomes the House. And I remind everyone, I left the House and ran for the Senate for a reason. I remember in my early years, I served for 6 years in the House of Representatives. I remember being so frustrated during those 6 years because it felt like every time there was a big bipartisan solution that needed to happen, the Senate just kind of came up with a solution and then gave it to the House and we just ate it. And that's why I ran for the Senate. Yeah. I thought, wait a second, they're doing the work. So when Republicans are in control, they pass a little bit of crazy legislation. And when the Democrats are in control, they pass a little bit of crazy legislation. And the job of the Senate is to cool that passion. You know, there's a saying that the House is the cup of hot tea, and the Senate is the saucer in which you cool that tea. The Senate was designed to be a place that moves slowly, to cool down those passions, to think more strategically and long-term about the legislation before us. But the best thing you can do for your child is to not give them everything they want, right? And that's important to the United States Senate as well. We shouldn't get everything we want in the moment. So not only am I committed to the 60-vote threshold, I have an incredibly unpopular view. I actually think we should restore the 60-vote threshold for the areas in which it has been eliminated already. We should restore it. Yeah, not everyone likes that.
So what's interesting there is you heard the collapse there at the end that quickly faded quickly because Mitch McConnell is the one who ended the 60-vote filibuster, which went down to 50 or 51 for nominating a Supreme Court justice. And that speech was in Kentucky. Yeah, and Mitch McConnell ended that. Yeah. So, let me know your thoughts here on this. But you know, here's the problem: is oh, we shouldn't get what we want in the moment, but the Supreme Court got what they wanted in the moment, and which is ending Roe v. Wade, which has been up there for almost 50 years, and then all these states are passing what they want in the moment, and basically, and again, I get that everybody has a different opinion on this, but basically, when it comes to abortion rights, taking the choice away from the woman. And this is why we're going to see actually millions of women actually signing up to vote here for this election. And really, this is just one issue. We talk about gun rights and gun safety. Again, the Senate passed a minor bill this year, but look at all the incidences that are happening almost every day. Should we not be able to pass things like this? Should we not be able to pass gun safety? Major things that are going to happen here when it comes to voting here this year. We look at the economy, we look at inflation, we look at things that are affecting Americans right now. Inflation at a 40-year high, and uh, we look at the Senate as basically a blockade where things. Mitch McConnell used to call it his, what did he call it? His graveyard, where he sent bills to die. I mean, he actually used to brag about that. And again, I'm not bashing Mitch McConnell. You might be a fan of him, you might not. This is what he actually used to say. He used to say he used to send bills to die there when he was the leader of the Senate just a few years ago. And remember that Republicans had they controlled the Senate, or they controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency back when Trump first became president. They controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They passed the 2017 Trump tax cuts through the reconciliation process without any Democratic votes, just like the first stimulus check passed under Biden, which was actually the third stimulus check. The Democrats passed that through reconciliation. The Democrats passed that without any Republican votes. So that, as my father would say, was good for the goose is good for the gander. Both parties were able to pass bills without any votes from the other party. That's a reconciliation bill where you only need 50 votes. Problem is those bills seem to be few and far in between, and people like Senator Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, and really back in the day, Lindsey Graham, they seem to be the stumbling blocks of those parties that want to just hold up things and not pass things, and make it difficult to get things passed. Now, what will happen with this election? You can let me know your thoughts here. We're gonna find out here pretty soon, and then we enter into a new 2-year term. Yeah, so what do you think? Do you think we should be able to get what the country needs in the moment, or should we just wait? Just wait, and we look at all these shootings that are happening, and we look at like the women's. So if you think about like the women's choice things, it's like if you're pregnant, and right now it's a very controversial issue. We look at like the case of the lady who had the baby that was in her, she was pregnant, she had a baby inside her, who was born without a skull, but she couldn't get an abortion. The baby was born without a skull, but she couldn't get an abortion because the state passed a law without an abortion, or no exceptions, no abortions, or they had medical exceptions, but this baby's condition wouldn't allow them to get a. I'll show it to you here. You can see right here, women carrying fetus without a skull to try to seek abortion in another state following Louisiana ban. Quote, basically, they said I had to carry my baby to bury my baby, who is about 16 weeks pregnant, as she they told her that they couldn't give her an abortion even though her baby had no chance of living, as the baby had no skull, as her condition, the baby's condition, uh, didn't have, it wasn't on the list. And the doctors faced possible prison time if they gave her gave her an abortion, even though she had a chance of dying by letting the baby stay inside there and going septic. And this is the problem here. But Kyrsten Sinema says, "Oh, we have to let things simmer and not get everything we want." People like this don't have time. They don't have time to wait while the Senate sits there and thinks about all this stuff, right? And really, you got to think how many people are affected by women's choice, pro-choice, pro-life, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. If it comes to gun rights, gun safety, again, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. If it comes to inflation and the economic conditions we're dealing with, again, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, how many millions of lives are affected while the Senate sits there and can't pass things, while we sit there and wait for Congress to debate on things, and the Republicans and Democrats can't come to agreements time and time and time again. Let me know your thoughts here on this. But if you've seen my show or you've watched Congress, how many times do we say Republicans and Democrats button their heads, can't come together, all the Republicans vote no on a Democratic bill? Honestly, we're just not seeing Republicans bring up bills. It's just not happening right now. Um, I don't know if this will change after the midterm elections. We're still going to have a Democratic president either way. I mean, even if he got impeached and thrown out, it would still be a Democratic president. I mean, it's not like that's going to change for 2 years at least. So there's not going to be a Republican president either in there no matter what. So we're still going to have a Democratic president no matter what for at least 2 years. The House and Senate, we'll have to see what happens here. But the House is basically a 50-50 mathematical odds. Could be either way. Polling is showing that it has a slight lean to Republican favor right now. The Senate has mathematical odds to stay Democratic. The Republicans would have to take over 51 seats to win the Senate, where Democrats would have to only win 50 seats to win the Senate, because in a 50-50 tie, the winner, or the leader of the Senate, the tiebreaker goes to whoever the vice president is. The vice president of the United States is always considered the president of the Senate. So if you ever see Kamala Harris sitting there in the top seat of the Senate, you'll hear them call her president. That's because the vice president is considered the president of the Senate. Okay, so because the vice president right now is a Democrat, the tiebreaker goes to the Democrats. Okay, so this is why it's a 50-50 Senate right now, and the Democrats control the Senate. So for the Republicans to control the Senate, they would have to actually win 51 seats. So they have a disadvantage right there alone. They have to win 51 seats, where the Democrats have to only win 50. Okay, so that's actually a disadvantage there, and that's harder to do than not, because they have to win 51 to 49. The other thing is there's considerable more seats up for re-election that are Republican seats than Democrat seats. Here, I found the information. This kind of shows you how hard it will be for the Republicans to win the Senate. Not that anything's impossible, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. Again, I'm talking to thousands of people here. But 14 seats held by Democrats and 21 seats held by Republicans are up for re-election in 2022. So there's 35 individual seats up for re-election in the Senate. So again, on any given year, there's about a third About a third. Again, it's not an exact science because remember, there's 100 people in the Senate. So about a third of them are up for reelection every 2 years. Remember, they serve 6-year terms. Okay. So this is why it's mathematically harder this particular year for the Republicans to win the Senate. 14 seats are up for reelection that are held by Democrats, and 21 seats that are held by Republicans are up for reelection. So remember, this is kind of how it works here. The Republicans would mathematically need to retain their 21 seats and also win one extra seat by the Democratic Party. To, again, they have to come out with 51 seats to win. So do you see the mathematical probability, how difficult it's going to be there? Because out of the 35 seats, they basically need to win here. They need to win 22 of them. Okay, because 21 seats are already Republican. I think I'm doing that right. Let me know if I'm doing that wrong here. But 21 are Republican. They need to win all of those, and then they need to take over one more. Okay? Because again, they have to come out with one more seat than they have now. Okay? So let me know if I'm doing that right, if I'm just doing this kind of mentally here. But they have to come out with one more seat than they have now, because right now it's a 50-50 election. 50-50 Senate, and they have to come out with 51 in the Senate. It has to be 51-49 for the Republicans to win in the Senate. If not, the Democrats will retain control in the Senate. And this is why mathematically it looks like the Democrats could win the Senate. But again, anything is possible. Anything is possible. It's just this particular year, it looks like it's much harder for the Republicans to win, in the Senate at least. Now, the House, everybody in the House of Representatives is up for reelection every 2 years. Every 2 years. And remember, there's new people there. Some people retiring. Some people just giving up. Some people, have lost their candidacy. There's, again, the House of Representatives is a complete free-for-all. Can you imagine going up for a reelection bid every 2 years, which is basically every year and a half, because then you have to start the whole campaign trail. That just seems like a complete nightmare. Um, that's pretty frequent, to be honest. Now, 6 years, on the other hand, seems like a long, long time. Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell won his election 2 years ago, and he's 80, so he'll be there till he's 84. So he won it when he was 78. He'll be there till he's 84. So 6 years is kind of a long time. And then if he runs again, he'll be there till he's 90. And really, he kind of won by a large margin. Not as large of a margin as Nancy Pelosi won by, but Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, they just win by large margins every time they're up for re-election. But that's the decent thing, is that they have the chance to be voted out. Everybody does. They have the chance to be voted out. And you guys have that chance to vote him in or vote him out. Mitch McConnell just got reelected, so he's in there for 4 more years now at this point. He's been there for 2 years now because he was voted in last time around. The thing I don't really like about the Supreme Court is that the people don't really get to vote on them. The president nominates them, and the Senate votes on them. The people don't get to vote on them at all, and then they stay in there forever until they pass away or they retire, and you and I don't get to vote on them at all. And then there's no real way for people to, if they're unhappy with their performance, vote them out. So like right now, based on multiple different polls all across the country, the Supreme Court has a historic low approval rating. There's no way to change it. They can just do whatever they want, just like the oil companies and gas companies. If the people are overwhelmingly unhappy with the job they're doing, they just kind of have free reign to do whatever they want. It kind of seems like a monarchy or something like a king would have. There's 9 of them, but there's it's right now it's a 6-3 Republican majority, and it could be that way for years. You may be happy with that, you may not, but it doesn't seem like the American way because the Americans have no say in it. We have no choice to vote them out. If you're unhappy with your state, you could vote people out, you could vote people in, you could vote your governor out, you could vote them in, you could keep them. You could vote your state legislators out. You could vote your senators out. You could vote the president out. You could vote him in. You could vote him out. The only people you can't vote out are the Supreme Court, which is honestly one of the most influential and important people in our country. They make some of the most important decisions for us. They're the highest court in the land, and yet we can't make any decisions on them. Maybe this needs to be changed. I don't know. You let me know your thoughts here. And the problem is that they serve forever. Sometimes they serve 40, 50 years. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. We're going to have a very big election here very soon. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. Click the bell icon after you subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos, and I'll keep you up to date here. You can click here to watch my newest video about Social Security announcement that's coming out here soon. And here is my newest video about checks that are going out to millions of Americans. You don't want to miss that either. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.